Hey guys, Miss Blakely, I've missed you guys. I missed my mornings in the cafeteria, and we've had this 3 week long spring break, so I hope everybody is ready to get busy again. We have some things we have to get covered. If you guys want to be successful in middle school math, we've got some things we've got to cover. And those of you who want to move on to the honors classes, which I'll talk to you guys about that later, there's certain things that you're going to expected to know and before you go into those honors classes. So we're going to pick up on fractions, and we left off on spring break. We got to get through that, and then there's some key things. I'm just going to pull the most important things that we've still got to learn for next year and to get through this. You guys that know you're struggling with your multiplication facts, okay, this is your time. You need to be practicing those. All of this is harder and harder. If you don't know your multiplication facts, it just makes it harder. So download an app on your phone or your tablet or whatever, or just make you some flashcards. Okay, just get some pieces of paper and cut them up and make you some flashcards. It's just something you've just got to do over and over and over so you get better at it. I promise. Even I wasn't born with the knowledge of multiplication facts, okay? So you have to practice it to know it. You have to. It'll make our fractions easier when you do that too. So anyway, I'm going to be posting a video about the fractions. This week is fractions. You'll have a worksheet that I'm sending out through Remind. That worksheet is meant to be in halves. So today's video, after my little monologue here, we'll go with the first half of that worksheet, and then I'm going to post a video on Wednesday that will go with the second half of the worksheet. I expect that worksheet to be done and turned into me, email, Remind, Facebook Messenger, however you get it to me, by noon on Friday. Okay. I also have tutoring hours. The schedule is on Facebook. Your parents should be able to access the schedule. Today, Monday, I'm available from 1 to 2. I'll send out my code on Remind so that you can get into my meeting. And it's just a tutorial. Or if you just want to come and say hi to me, if you've missed talking to me, come say hi. If you have questions about the assignment, then pop into the meeting. You do not have to stay the whole hour. I'm not teaching during that time, so it's not mandatory. There's actually 4 times that I will be available this week to answer questions. And so you can get on there all 4 times, or you can get on there 1 time. Okay, just whatever, so that I know that you're, if you need any help or anything. So today from 1 to 2, tomorrow from 6 to 7. Let's just keep it there, and I'll tell you the rest of them on Wednesday's video. Okay. The rest of the lesson is going to be on a whiteboard, so you won't see my face, but you'll hear my voice. And so I'll be writing. You can take notes as we go. You could be looking at your worksheet as we go and kind of be working at it. The good thing about this is if you don't hear something I say, rewind and watch it again. Later on, if you forget something or if you need to look at something, rewind it and look at it again. Are there any questions? You don't have to raise your hand. Just shout them out. Just kidding. If you have questions, get with me at Zoom from 1 to 2. Okay, so here's the lesson. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off before spring break. We're going to be adding and subtracting fractions. We have to get the common denominator. So we were talking about equivalent fractions and common denominators before we left. One of the main questions that we had was why we have to have common denominators. Okay, so I want to talk about that real quick. 3/8 plus 2/8. The blue is a representation. This is 3 out of 8, and then the 2/8 is 2 out of 8. So you have to have the common denominator because you want to know how many 8s you get. So I've had some people go, why isn't the answer 5/16? Why don't we add top and bottom? Okay, that is not correct, so please don't do that. And the reason is because 3/8 plus 2/8 is, you can shout it out right now if you want to, make your family know how smart you are, is 5/8, because it's 5 out of 8. Now, if we did 5 out of 16, so there's 16 boxes here, so 5 out of 16 would be right there. Those obviously are not the same number, okay? So that method doesn't work. So if you have something like 2/3 plus 4/5, without common denominators, that doesn't make sense because I can't add 2/3 and 4/5 because I can't, how many thirds do I have? How many fifths do I have? I have to get a common language there to know what fraction I'm talking about. So this does not equal 6/8. Okay, you cannot do it that way. It just doesn't work. It's one of our math laws that you can't do. So you've got to make sure that you get that common denominator so that you know what your whole is. You got to cut it up into the same number of pieces. It doesn't make sense to add 1/4 of a pizza and 1/3 of a pizza without getting it into the same number of pieces of pizza as a whole. Okay, so that's just one of the rules. That's why that is, that you have to have a common denominator. Okay. Okay, so this is actually an example that we did before we left for spring break, and let me clear that up, sorry. 1/4 plus 2/3. So you notice the red, this is 1/4, and then I've got 2/3 over here in the blue. So you have to have a common denominator so that we have the same number of whole pieces, okay? Because if I take 1/4 and 2/3, the 4th is not as big as a 1/3. So those cannot be combined together to make the fraction, okay? You cannot say that the answer is 3/7. It does not work that way. So you have to get them into the same number of wholes. And so that's going to be 12 because 4 and 3 both go into 12. Okay, remember what we talked about before spring break? There is a math law. And so if I get 4 to 12, 4 times what is 12? Okay, 3, yes. You don't have to raise your hands and stuff. But remember the math law. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other, yes. So if I multiply the denominator by 3, I have to multiply the numerator by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/4 is the same as, I'm in blue here, 3/12. Okay, notice they have the same little measurement here. They are the same thing. They're just written, this is called an equivalent fraction. 1/4 and 3/12 are equivalent fractions because they mean the same amount. Okay, then move over to the 2/3. I need to get that to also be 12 so that I can have my same denominator. So 3 times what is 12? 4. And if I multiply the denominator by 4, I have to multiply the numerator by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 is equivalent, is the same as 8/12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to shade all those in. Now I have 3/12 plus 8/12. So since I have that common denominator right here, I can look and see how many 12ths do I end up with. And so I can say that because I have the same denominator. So 3 plus 8 is 11/12. So all in all, I have 11 of these little pieces, and each one of those little pieces is a 12th. Okay, so that's why you have to have the common denominator. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Like I said, if it doesn't, feel free to Zoom me later and ask me questions, or rewatch this and see if it makes sense the second time, okay? Okay, so the first problems of your worksheet is going to be not adding or subtracting anything. It's just to find the equivalent fraction with a common denominator. So I want you to look at this denominator. So let's look at example 1. We're going to look at the denominator, 2 and 8. What number will 2 and 8 both go into? Silent thinking. Okay. A lot of people say 16. And 16, remember we talked about before, 16 is not wrong. It's not the lowest number, but it's not wrong. Okay, so you can actually have more than one correct answer on this. So 8 is actually the smallest. Okay, but if you did 16, that's fine too. You could do 24, you could do 32. I mean, you could keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But 8 is the smallest one. So that's the one that I want to use right now. So I'm going to put 8 and 8. Okay, so I need to look at the 1/2. I'll try to change my pen color, but I don't know how. Oh, there it is. Let me change the color so you can kind of see. Okay, so I need to get 2 to 8. So what can I multiply 2 by to get to 8? 4. Yeah. Okay, so 2 times 4 is 8. And then remember the rule, whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 2 times 4 is 8, 1 times 4 is 4. So 1/2 and 4/8 are equivalent to each other. Now over here, I already have an 8. So do I need to do anything to it? No. If you want to, if it just makes you feel better, what can you multiply 8 by to get 8? 1. If I multiply the bottom by 1, I have to multiply the top by 1. Does it change? No. So it's not even necessary to do, but if you want to get in that habit, go ahead. Okay, so 4/8 and 3/8. That is my answer. If it says to write an equivalent fraction, that is your answer. You could have done 16. If in your head, if you're doing 16, then you would have multiplied by 8 on this side and 2 on this side, and you would have gotten 8/16 and 6/16. That is also a correct answer. Not a big deal. Okay. Okay, so let's look at example 2. You're going to look at your denominator. Okay, 9 and 3. What number will 9 and 3 both go into? Think of the lowest number. If you can't think of a number, an easy trick is to just multiply the two. 9 times 3 is 27, so they'll both go into 27. Now there is a number that's lower than that, so you don't have to use that big of a number, but you could. The lowest one that 9 and 3 will both go into, don't forget about the number itself, okay? That's always one that people skip a lot. So 9, so I'm gonna put 9 and 9. And I'm going to look at this. 9's already here, so I just have to bring the 7 down here. I don't have to change anything. If you want to do the multiply by 1, then multiply by 1, not a big deal. Okay. On the other side, I need to get the 3 to a 9. So 3 times what is 9? 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. And if I multiply the bottom by 9, I have to multiply the top by 9. Sorry, by 3. If I multiply the bottom by 3, the denominator by 3, I have to multiply the numerator by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. Here is your answer. 7/9 and 6/9. Make sure that your answer has common denominators. If you don't have the same number down there, then you have done something wrong and you need to check your work. Okay. The habit in me wants to ask you if you have any questions, even though I know you can't ask me any questions right now. Jot down some questions on a piece of paper for later if you come and see me on Zoom, if you want to remind yourself of what you wanted to ask me. Okay, so let's look at a couple more examples. Okay, 1/3 and 1/5. So we're going to look at our denominators, 3 and 5. So what number will 3 and 5 both go into? Okay, think about it, think about it. What number will 3 and 5 both go into? Okay, 15. Remember, if you can't think of one, just multiply 3 times 5. That will always work. There may be a available, but that will always work. So 15, so I'm going to write 15 and 15 on my paper down here. And then I'm going to look and see what do I need to do to get to that number. So what do I have to multiply 3 by to get to 15? So 3 times what is 15? 5. And if I multiply the bottom by 5, I have to multiply the top by 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. So 1 times 5 is 5. Look over at the other one. Okay, I need to get 5 to 15. So 5 times what is 15? What can I multiply 5 by to get 15? 3. Okay, if I multiply the numerator by 3, I have to multiply the numerator by 3. And the reason this is a math rule, in case you wanted to know, is 3 divided by 3 is 1. And if you multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change it. So I always say you're multiplying by a fancy form of 1. 3 over 3 is 1. 5 over 5 is 1. So that is why that's a math rule. That's why you have to do it to the top and to the bottom. Okay, we're still writing equivalent fractions, so this is my answer. Okay, one more example on this. Look at your denominator, 5 and 7. So what number will 5 and 7 both go into? Okay, 35. Like I said, there's not one lower than that because 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. There's not a number that 7 also goes into. So the one you can get is the 35. So I'm going to write 35 down here. And then I'm going to look at my problem here. How can I get 5 to 35? What can I multiply 5 by to get 35? 5 times what number? 7. Okay, 5 times 7 is 35. And if I multiply the bottom by 7, I have to multiply the top by 7. So I get 21. I'm going to look over here. What do I have to multiply 7 by to get 35? You guys are seeing why I said your multiplication facts are so important right now. Okay, you need to be able to do this pretty quickly. Otherwise, it's going to take you a little bit longer than others to do this worksheet because you're going to have to be doing your multiplication facts. So if I multiply the denominator by 5, I have to multiply the numerator by 5. Okay, I have to do the same thing to top and bottom. So 7 times 5 is 35. 4 times 5 is 20. So that is my answer. Okay, those are my. Okay, so now that we've done that, we did that before spring break. So that should be something, if you remember 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks, however long we've been out, that's something we already covered. So now we're going to talk about adding them together and subtracting them. So like I said before, you have to have a common denominator to be able to add and subtract because you have to have the same number of the whole, okay? The bottom number has to be the same. Think back to that picture. Go back to that second slide at the beginning of the presentation if you need to see why you have to have a common denominator. So when I add the addition and subtraction there, you're going to do the exact same step we did on the last 4 examples, except for at the end, you're going to either subtract them or add them. So I'm going to do the same thing. This is actually the same example we did 2 slides ago, and we found out the common denominator was 8. So we did 8 and 8. I need to multiply this by 4, multiply this by 4. Whatever I do to one, I do to the other. So I get 4 8s. Now, I remember people have an issue, some problems with this before spring break, and was the fact that they wanted to combine this. They wanted to multiply everything by 4. These are 2 separate things here, okay? 1/2 is its own thing, 3/8 is its own thing. You mess with this problem over here, get your answer, and then you move over here and mess with this problem, okay? They are not the same. You do not have to do the same thing to both numbers. So now I'm over here. I already have an 8 there. Remember, you can multiply by 1 if you want. Okay, not necessary. Sorry, my pen's not working very well. This is just 3/8. And so before, my answer was 4 8 and 3 8 and I was done. But now I want to subtract these. So when you subtract them, this common denominator automatically just comes down here. Whatever this number is right here, put it down here automatically, okay? And then you take your numerator, your top number, and you subtract it. So 4 minus 3 is 1. So your answer is 1/8. Okay, and if you need a visual representation, you know, do you a little box into 8, you got 4 8s, you know, do your little thing, and then you got 3 8s, and then subtract the 4, you know, minus the 3, and you will still have 1/8 left. I may have just confused you there, but that's kind of, just think back to those visuals. I don't have an eraser either, so I always have to clear that off. Okay, sorry. So 4 8s minus 3 8s is 1/8. Is that one fraction when you get to these part where it says adding and subtracting. Okay, this is also the same example we did before, 7 9 and 2/3. So look at your denominator. What will 3 and 9 both go into, which is 9. So I'm going to put 9 and 9. The 9's already there, so I don't need to do anything with it. I need to get the 3 into a 9, so 3 times 3 is 9. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 2 times 3 is 6. Now this time, I am at, okay, so I want to add these together. So remember what I said about the denominator. Whatever number you have here stays there, okay? So that will come down into your answer. no matter what. All of these work the same way. So 9 comes down here. And then I'm going to add the top number. 7 plus 6 is 13. Now this is called an improper fraction. For today, for what we're doing, you can leave your answer like this if you want to go this last year. If not, we'll be talking more about it Wednesday. You could actually say 9 goes into 13 one time, and you have 4 9s left over. I don't care which answer you give me today. I'd have to, if you've never seen this, okay, that I'm pretty sure that's a 4th grade standard, but I could be wrong. But if you haven't, just ignore me and we will talk about that Wednesday a little bit more because we're going to be doing mixed fractions on Wednesday. Okay, so let's look at 2 more examples. Yeah, these are ones we haven't done before, so okay, so 5 6 and 1/2. So your number 1 step is to look at your denominator, 6 and 2. What number can I get 6 and 2 both to go into so that I can get my common denominator? So I get the same number here. So what number will 2 and 6 both go into? Like I said earlier, a lot of people say 12. If you said 12, that is fine. We'll go with 12. 6 is actually the best answer, and I will tell you what answer you would get if you use 6 in just a second. Let's see here. So how do I get from 6 to 12? So 6 times what is 12? So 6 times what will give me 12? 2. Okay. So 6 times 2 is 12. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so I've got 10 twelfths and 5 sixths. Those are the same fraction, just written different ways. And then I'm going to come over here, 1/2. Now, some of you should be able to know this. What is half of 12? 6. So you can go ahead and put the 6 there. 6 twelfths and 1/2 is the same thing. But if you need to go through the steps, then look 2 times what is 12? So 2 times what is 12? 6. Yes. Okay. And if I do that to the numerator, I have to do, or the denominator, I have to do that to the numerator. So 1 times 6 is 6. I'm subtracting these. So I'm going to get 4 twelfths. Okay, and this can actually be reduced because 4 goes into both of those. So 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 12 3 times. You should have reduced previous to this year. So that should be something that you are familiar with. So the answer is 1/3. Now I'm going to erase this real quick. And I'm going to show you what would have happened if we would have used the 6 to begin with. Okay, so remember the answer was 1/3. I went ahead and I said, okay, I'm going to say that 2 and 6 both go into 6. That is the best choice simply because it's the lowest number. And so I have 5 6. The 6 is already there. So I can just bring the 5 down here. Multiply by 1 if you want to. 2 times what is going to give me 6? Okay, 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. And whenever I do the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 1 times 3 is 3. I'm subtracting these. So my denominator just automatically comes down here and becomes the 6. And then 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 6 reduces. 2 will go into 2 one time. 2 will go into 6 3 times. Did we get the same answer? Yes, we did. Okay, so it does not matter which denominator you use as long as they will both multiply to get there. Okay, so let's do this example. 1/4 and 2/3. We're looking at our denominator. What number will 4 and 3 both go into? 4 and 3, what can I multiply both of those numbers to get to? Okay, 12. There's other ones, like I've said before, but 12 is the best one. So I'm going to look at each fraction individually. And how do I get from 4 to 12? What can I multiply 4 by to get 12? 4 times what is 12? 3. And guys, I do want you going along. I know we're not in the class, so I may sound crazy expecting y'all to answer me back. But say it in your head. Say wherever you're doing your work. It's kind of just getting that habit, because I don't want to just feed it to you. I want you thinking about it. Do that silent think time that we did in class. So 4 times 3 is 12, which is what I want. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 4 times 3 is 12, 1 times 3 is 3. And then I come over to the other side. Okay, 3 times what is 12? What can I multiply 3 by to get 12? 4. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to, so 2 times 4 is 8. I'm adding these together. So remember what I said about the denominators. Okay, they automatically just come down here because that's my whole. So 12 comes down to the denominator, and then 3 plus 8 is 11. So my answer is 11/12. Okay, so if you need to rewind back through these, look at these again. Okay, that's why I wanted to do the recorded videos so that you could go back and forth. Okay, I'm going to clear this off. And I got a little bit of a weird one here for you. Whoa, adding 3 fractions together. Okay. So in this one, you have to get the same common denominator for all 3. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. So you're looking at 2, 3, and 4. So what does 2, 3, and 4, what can I get all 3 of these numbers to go into? So what number is divisible by 2, 3, and 4? And remember, there's not one correct answer. There is a better answer, the lowest number, but there's more than one. The one that pops into my head and maybe pops into your heads is 12. 2 will go into 12, 3 will go into 12, and 4 will go into 12. So then I come up here and I look at my fractions individually. Okay, so I'm going to look at 1/2. What do I have to multiply to get 1/2 to 12? So you're going to have your common denominator of 12 down here, all the way across. So 2 times what is 12? 6. Okay, and then whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 2 times 6 is 12, and 1 times 6 is 6. Let's switch colors for each problem here. 2/3. Now this is kind of squished up in here, so it's a little harder to see. But how do I get 3 to 12? So 3 times what is 12? What can I multiply 3 by to get 12? 3 times 4 is 12. And whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 2 times 4 is 8. Just make sure you're multiplying by the same number, top and bottom. And each fraction is individual. Okay, I got one more fraction here. What color have I not used? I don't know if you can see yellow. I'll just use black. Okay, so I want to get to the 4th. So 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12. And whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I'm adding all of these together. Same rule here, okay? Common denominator. That stays the same. So I have a little room over here. So that 12 automatically stays the denominator. That's the whole reason we get a common denominator. So we have that in our answer. And then we're going to add 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 3 is 17. So 17/12. That is a good answer for me. Okay, you do not have to change that. If you just want to change it, 17/12 becomes 1. 12 goes to 17 with 5 left over. So 1 5/12 is also a good answer. Like I said, it's not a big deal of which one you do for me. Okay, so are we good? Do you feel good about this? Okay, so if you're ready, if you think that you have got this down, then you can stop the video and go to the worksheet. The worksheet is in the links, or it's in the comments of the links to this video, and it's also sent out through Remind. And I want you to do problems 1 through 10, okay? For today, it's actually the exact same problems that are in your workbook, just in a on one page. If you can't access the worksheet, or if you just want to use your workbook, This is page 381, numbers 3 through 6, and page 389, numbers 1 through 6. Okay, so there's 10 problems. Like I said, it's the same one that's on the, that won't be the case every time. And then what you need to do is take a picture of it and send it to me by Friday at noon. Okay, if you need more, I'm going to go through 3 more examples. Okay, so like I said, if you're ready to go, turn me off and go get on your worksheet. And I'll post a new video on Wednesday for the second half of the worksheet. If you need more help, here we go. We're going to do a few more examples. Okay, so number 1 step, look at your denominator. Okay, that is your number 1. So 7 and 2. What can I get 7 and 2 to both go into? What number is divisible by 7 and also 2? Okay, 14. You could have used 28 also. Okay, you could go bigger. We try to stay with the smallest ones just to make it easier on ourselves. Okay, so second step is I'm going to write 14 and 14 down here. Okay, so that is your common denominators. That's what I'm working to get my question or to get my problem to be. So instead of 3/7, I need something out of 14. So 7 times what is 14? So I need to get to that 14. So 7 times what is 14? 2. And then whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 7 times 2 is 14. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing to the 1/2. Hopefully in your head you know what out of 14 will also give you 1/2. So you don't have to go through these steps, okay? But let's just do it for fun. Okay, 2 times what is 14? So 2 times 7 is 14. If I multiply the denominator by 7, I have to multiply the numerator by 7. So 1 times 7 is 7. I'm adding these together. So remember, big step here. Pull that 14 down here. Do not change that denominator. We got a common one for a reason. Keep it there. Add your top number. 6 plus 7 is 13. Okay, and that is your answer. So get your common denominator, add your top numbers, and that is your answer. Okay, subtraction. Same thing, same steps. The only thing different is the very last step you do. Okay, you go through the exact same steps here. So 5 and 3. So what can I get? 5 and 3. Oops. Okay, start over. 5 and 3. What can I get 5 and 3 both to go into? So what number can be divided by 5 and 3? Okay, 15. So I'm going to get 15 and 15 here. I need that to be my common denominator. So that I can figure out, well, how do I get these numbers into these numbers? So I have to look and say, okay, 5 times what is 15? 5 times 3 is 15. If I multiply the denominator by 3, I have to multiply the numerator by 3. These numbers have to be the same. So 2 times 3 is 6. So now I got 6/15. Come over here and do the same thing with the third. So 3 times what is 15? 3 times 5. If I multiply the denominator by 5, I have to multiply the numerator by 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so I've got my common denominators. That's what I want. So I'm going to bring that down here because that's what my answer will end up having. This is subtraction, so I want to subtract the 6 and the 5. So 6 minus 5 is 1. So my answer is 1/15. Okay, and I got one more of the long ones, and then I will be done. Okay, so 1/6, 2/3, and 3/5. So remember, our first step is to look at our denominators. I've got 6, 3, and 5. What number can 6, 3, and 5 all go into? 12? No, 5 doesn't go into 12. 20? 6 and 3 don't go into 20. So kind of think through this process. Think about what number can you get both of them to go, or all three of them to go into. You got it? Think, 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 think. Okay, hopefully you came up with 30. 6 will go into 30, 3 will go into 30, and 5 will go into 30. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to write 30, 30, and 30, because I'm going to get all three of these fractions to have a denominator of 30. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to look at the 1/6. So how can I get 6 to 30? So 6 times what is 30? 6 times 5. If I multiply the bottom by 5, I have to multiply the top by 5. So 6 times 5 is 30, so 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, make sure these numbers are the same right here. Okay, then I'm going to move over to the 2/3. 2/3, so the 3 times what is 30? 3 times what is 30? 3 times 10 is 30. And if I multiply the bottom by 10, I have to multiply the top by 10. So I get 20. 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, then I look at the last fraction. 5 times what is 30? 5 times 6 is 30. If I multiply the denominator by 6, I have to multiply the numerator by 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. Now I have this common denominator, so that's going to be in my answer. Make sure that's in my answer. Okay, and then I'm adding, so I'm going to add 5 plus 20 is 25, plus 18 is 35, 43. So 43 out of 30. If you want to leave your answer like that, that's fine. Or you can say 30 goes into 43 one time. And I have 13 out of 30 left over. Okay. So how are we feeling? Everybody good to go on the fractions? Okay, so these are my Zoom tutoring hours. The code is sent out through Remind. It is the same code every time. Okay, so today, Monday, 1 to 2. Hopefully you're watching the video today, Monday, the day you're supposed to. So 1 to 2 in the afternoon, and then Tuesday, 6 to 7 in the evening. Do not call me in the morning. And then I'll have another video on Wednesday, and then I'll have tutoring from 3 to 4 on Thursday and from 10 to 11 a.m. on Friday. Okay, because remember your worksheet is due at noon. So make sure you get that worksheet to me by noon. Okay, so good luck. Let me know if you need any help. Bye.